come in, wherever you are right now, whatever room you're lying in, whatever corner of the world is dark outside your window, you are welcome here. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to figure out, nothing left to carry tonight. Just rest. Let your shoulders fall. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands go soft against the sheets. You've been holding so much today, maybe for a long time now, and you don't have to hold any of it for the next little while. This is a place of quiet, a place of peace, a place that has been made just for this, for the end of the day, for the closing of the eyes, for the slow releasing of everything that felt so urgent just a few hours ago. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Good, you're here now. Tonight, we are going to do something simple and ancient. We are going to listen. We are going to walk slowly, without hurrying, through the words of Jesus as they were recorded across the 4 Gospels. Not as a study, not as a sermon, just as a presence, a voice, a companionship for the dark hours. These words have been read in the middle of the night for 2,000 years, in cold stone monasteries and warm candlelit rooms, in hospitals and in prisons, by mothers sitting up with newborns, and by old men who couldn't sleep. Again and again, across centuries and continents, in languages that barely resemble one another anymore, people have turned to these words when the night felt long, when the mind wouldn't stop, when the heart needed something it couldn't quite name. Tonight, you are one of them, and that, in its own quiet way, is a beautiful thing. We will move through many moments together. We will stand on a hillside in Galilee where a large crowd has gathered and a teacher has sat down, and we will listen to him speak things that no one had ever quite said before. We will walk dusty roads between small towns. We will sit by the edge of a wide lake and watch a man climb into a boat and push out from the shore, and we will hear him tell stories, strange, luminous stories that have never quite let go of the world since. We will be in an upper room on a final evening, watching someone kneel down and wash the feet of the people he loves. We will not rush any of it. There is nowhere to be. There is only here, and the words, and the night. So let us begin. We begin on a hillside. It is morning, or near enough to it. The air is still cool from the night before. Below the hill, in the valleys and along the lake shores, word has spread, as word always seemed to spread about this man, and crowds have come from the towns nearby. They have climbed the slope with their needs and their questions and their tired, ordinary lives, and now they are settling onto the grass, finding spots, looking up. He sits down. That is how teachers taught in those days. They sat, and the sitting itself meant, I am about to say something. Listen. And so they listen. And he opens his mouth, and the first thing he says is not a command, not a warning, not a rule. It is a blessing. Blessed are the poor in spirit, he says, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Let that settle for a moment. Blessed, not the powerful, not the certain, not the ones who have it all together, the poor in spirit, the ones who know how much they need, the ones sitting quietly in the dark tonight perhaps, wondering if anyone sees them. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. There is grief in you tonight, perhaps, something you haven't put into words, something you've been carrying in the soft tissue beneath the ribs. He sees it. He names it. He doesn't say the grief is nothing. He says the grieving ones are blessed, and that comfort is coming. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. One by one, the blessings fall, like something slow and warm spreading out across that hillside, like the first light of morning that doesn't arrive all at once, but comes in so gradually you almost don't notice until everything around you is gold. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. He speaks each one as if he means it for someone specific, as if his eyes are moving through the crowd and landing, for just a moment, on each face. Tonight, let them land on yours. You are seen. You are spoken to. And somewhere behind these words, in the quiet that holds them, a lamp has been set on a stand, and it is giving light to everyone in the room, even here, even now, even in the dark. Sleep well. You're still here. Good, don't go anywhere. Just stay exactly as you are, heavy and warm and quiet, and let the words keep coming. We're still on that hillside. The crowd is still gathered. The morning air is still cool. And he is still speaking. He hasn't finished yet. Not even close. Because what he came to say wasn't just about who is blessed. It was about something deeper, something harder and more beautiful than a list of blessings. He came to talk about the inside of a life, the interior, the place no one else can see, the room behind the room, the thought beneath the thought, the thing you carry that never quite makes it into words. He came to talk about the heart. You have heard it said, he tells the crowd, that you shall not murder. And yes, of course, everyone knows that. That is the outer rule, the visible law, the thing that keeps a society from falling apart. But I tell you something further, something closer in. Anyone who is angry with a brother or sister, who harbors that anger, who lets it live and breathe and take up residence, has already crossed a threshold. It isn't just the action, it's the interior movement toward the action. This is not meant to be frightening. Hear it instead as an invitation to tend to what is happening inside you before it hardens into something that cannot be undone. Go, he says. If you remember that someone has something against you, leave your gift at the altar. First, go. Be reconciled. Then come back. In other words, the relationship matters more than the ritual. The person matters more than the performance. Settle matters while you can, he says, while there is still road between you and the courthouse. While there is still time to turn around and choose differently, there is always time to turn around and choose differently. Let that be something you take with you into sleep tonight. Whatever conflict lives unresolved somewhere in your chest, you don't have to solve it in the dark, but you can release your grip on it. Just for now, you can let it rest on the floor beside the bed and pick it up in the morning if you need to. Tonight, just breathe. He goes further. You have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that the look of desire, the cultivated glance, the nurtured wanting of what is not yours, that too is already a beginning. He is not being cruel here. He is being honest in a way that most people are not brave enough to be. He is saying that the outer life and the inner life are not two separate things, that what you tend inside you eventually surfaces outside you, that the seed and the harvest belong to the same plant. Take care of what you sow in the quiet of your own mind, he says, not with terror, not with shame, but with the same gentle attention you might give a garden that you love. Let your yes be yes, he says, and your no be no. There is a kind of rest in simplicity, a weariness that comes from saying things we don't mean, from layering qualifications and promises and performances over the simple truth of what we think and feel and intend. He is calling his listeners, calling you, back to something uncomplicated. You don't need to swear by heaven or earth or the hairs of your head. You don't need to make yourself larger than you are to be believed. Just mean what you say. Just be who you are. That is enough. Now he says something that stops the crowd. You can almost feel the shift in the air on that hillside. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And yes, that was the law. That was the ancient mathematics of fairness. You take one thing, I take one thing back, and the scales are balanced. It makes a kind of sense. It feels satisfying in a grim, tight-fisted sort of way. But I tell you, he says, and here the voice must have dropped or risen or done something that made people lean in. Do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone wants your shirt, give them your coat as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them too. Now hear this slowly, because it is easy to misread. He is not asking for passivity. He is not describing defeat. What he is describing is something far stranger and stronger than retaliation. He is describing a person so internally free, so unafraid, so rooted in something that cannot be taken away, that they can choose generosity in the very moment they are being wronged. That is not weakness. That is a kind of power the world has almost no category for. And then, the summit of it all. Love your enemies, he says. Pray for those who persecute you. Let that be ridiculous for a moment, if it needs to be. Let it feel impossible. It is allowed to feel impossible, but sit with it anyway, because tucked inside this impossible command is a truth about the nature of love itself, that real love, the deep kind, the God-shaped kind, does not only flow toward the ones who deserve it or return it or earn it. It flows, because that is what love does. It flows like rain on the righteous and the unrighteous alike. If you love only those who love you back, he says gently, what credit is that to you? Even the tax collectors do that. He is asking for more, not to burden you, but because he believes you are capable of more. Go to your room, he says. Close the door. Pray to your Father in secret, and here, quietly, like a hand laid over a candle flame to shield it from the wind, he gives them a prayer, gives you a prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Say it slowly inside yourself if you like. There is no rush. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, just today's bread, not next week's, not next year's, just today's. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. There it is, the whole shape of a life, held in a few short lines. Surrender and trust and provision and forgiveness and protection. Everything you actually need, gathered up and offered back to the one who made you. Where your treasure is, he says at last, there your heart will be also. So tonight, let your heart be here. Let it be still. Let it rest in something that moths cannot destroy and thieves cannot reach. You are safe. Rest now, you said. Continue next chapter where you left off, and follow the word count for next also. Still with me? Good, keep letting go. Whatever just flickered through your mind, the thing you forgot to do, the message you didn't send, the conversation you're still replaying, just let it pass through like a cloud moving across a dark sky. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to solve it. It will still be there in the morning if it matters, and the morning is a long way off yet. Right now there is only this, the hillside, the voice, the cool, unhurried air, and he is still speaking. He has been watching the faces in the crowd, the way a good teacher always does, and he can see it there, the thing that lives just behind the eyes of almost everyone, the low, persistent hum that rarely goes fully quiet, the weight that follows people to bed and wakes them before dawn. Worry, not the sharp fear of an immediate danger. That kind of fear has its uses. It gets you out of the road when a cart is coming. But the other kind, the grinding, circling, unproductive kind, the kind that keeps rehearsing scenarios that haven't happened yet, the kind that builds tomorrow's problems out of today's uncertainties and then lies awake, staring at what it has built. That kind. He sees it, and he doesn't dismiss it, or mock it, or tell people they are foolish for feeling it. He simply, slowly, carefully, as if he is dismantling something fragile, begins to show them a different way of seeing. Therefore, I tell you, he says, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. And then, he does something unexpected. He points upward. Look at the birds, he says. Look at them just for a moment, just actually look. They do not sow. They do not reap. They do not store anything away in barns. And yet every morning they wake up and they are fed, not because they earned it, not because they planned it, but because they are held inside a world that provides for them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Pause on that. Let it ask itself again, quietly, in the back of your mind. Are you not much more valuable than they? You, with your history and your loves, and your specific, unrepeatable way of seeing the world. You, who have people who would notice if you were gone. You, who carries quiet hopes that you haven't even told anyone about. Are you not much more valuable? He thinks so. He says so plainly, without sentimentality. And then, gently, almost with a touch of humor, can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Can you? Think about all the hours spent in worry, all the energy poured into imagined catastrophes that never arrived, or that arrived and turned out to be survivable, or that arrived and were faced with a strength that hadn't been visible until it was needed. What did the worrying add? Did it make the hard things softer? Did it prepare you in any way that calm thinking wouldn't have done just as well? It didn't, did it? He knows it didn't. And then he points downward. Look at the wildflowers, he says. Look at how they grow. They do not labor. They do not spin thread or weave cloth or sit up late calculating whether they will have enough. They simply grow in the particular way they were made to grow, in the particular place they were planted. And they are, he says this with what sounds almost like delight, more glorious in their ordinary beauty than Solomon in all his splendor. Think about that for a moment. Solomon, the wealthiest, most celebrated king in all of Israel's history. His robes, his palace, his gold, all of it, not as beautiful as a single wildflower growing in a field that no one has cultivated and almost no one will see. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, he says. And here the voice becomes very gentle, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire. Will he not much more clothe you? You of little faith, not said as a rebuke, said as a term of affection, the way you might say it to someone you love who is lying awake in the dark worrying about something that is already being taken care of. Oh, you of little faith, as if the answer to worry is not willpower but trust, not gritting your teeth but opening your hands. So do not worry, he says, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Your heavenly Father knows that you need them. He already knows. You do not need to remind him. You do not need to make a compelling case for your own survival. You do not need to perform your need loudly enough for heaven to hear it. He knows what you need before you ask, before the thought is fully formed, before you wake in the gray hour and start the familiar inventory of everything that could go wrong. He already knows. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, he says, and all these things will be given to you as well. Seek first, not second, not eventually, not after you have arranged everything else to your satisfaction. First, let the orientation of your life be towards something larger and more lasting than the daily logistics of survival, and then watch how the daily logistics of survival seem to arrange themselves quietly around that, not magically, not without effort, but with a kind of grace that worry could never manufacture. And then he says something that is perhaps the most practical thing anyone has ever said about anxiety. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day, he says, has enough trouble of its own. Just today, just this moment, just the breath going in and the breath going out, and the weight of the blanket and the sound of the night outside your window. Tomorrow is not here yet, and it does not need you yet. The problems that live in tomorrow belong to tomorrow. Tonight belongs entirely to tonight. You do not need to carry what isn't yours to carry yet. Put it down. You are not made to hold tomorrow tonight. You are made for this, for rest, for release, for the soft, necessary surrender of sleep. And so, like the birds who do not store and the flowers who do not spin, you can simply let go. Let the night hold you. Let the morning come when it comes. You have enough for today. That is enough. Sleep now. You're doing so well. Just keep breathing, in and out, slow and easy. Let the words wash over you like water over smooth stone. You don't have to hold on to any of it. You don't have to remember it in the morning. It is enough simply to let it pass through you, to let it do its quiet work while you rest. We are leaving the hillside now. The crowd is dispersing. People are making their way back down the slope, back to their towns, back to their lives. But something has shifted in them. You can see it in the way they walk. A little lighter, maybe. A little less hunched over the weight of their own thoughts. Something was set up there that landed somewhere deep, and it will take days and years and a lifetime to fully unfold. But Jesus doesn't stay on the hillside. He never stays in one place for very long. He moves. Through towns and villages he goes, teaching in the synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, healing every disease and every illness. And when he looks out at the crowds that gather wherever he appears, the tired, the confused, the sick, the searching, the word the gospel uses for what he feels is not pity, not duty, not obligation. It is compassion. He is moved with compassion, the kind of feeling that doesn't stay quietly inside the chest, but moves through the whole body, the kind that compels you toward the suffering thing rather than away from it. He looks at the crowds and he sees them as they really are, harassed and helpless, he says, like sheep without a shepherd. And that image, once you hold it for a moment, is both heartbreaking and tender. Not stupid sheep, not sheep who deserve to be lost, just sheep who need someone to lead them somewhere safe, who need a voice they can recognize, who need to know that someone is watching over the flock. The harvest is plentiful, he says to his disciples, but the workers are few. He is always looking at the world and seeing not its failures, but its readiness. Not how far things have fallen, but how ready everything is to be gathered in. The field is full. The grain is heavy on the stalk. All it needs is people willing to go into it. And so he sends them, 12 of them first, then 72 more, out into the towns and villages ahead of him, like a wave preceding the shore. And his instructions to them are strange and beautiful in equal measure. Take nothing for the journey, he says. No bag, no extra clothes, no gold or silver tucked into a belt, no elaborate plan or backup strategy. Just go. Trust that the road will provide what the road requires. Trust that the home that welcomes you will have what you need. Trust that the words will come when they are needed. There is a kind of radical lightness in these instructions, a deliberate unburdening, as if he is trying to teach them from the very beginning that the work doesn't depend on what they carry. It depends on what they've been given, and what they've been given is more than enough. Freely you have received, he tells them. Freely give. Be wise as serpents, he says, and innocent as doves. Hold those two things together for a moment. Shrewdness and innocence, clarity and gentleness, eyes open and heart open at the same time. It is not an easy balance to keep. The world tends to make people choose. Either you are savvy and guarded, or you're open and naive. He seems to think you can be both. He seems to think that wisdom and gentleness are not opposites, but partners. He tells them that things will be hard, that they will be brought before rulers and councils, that they will be hated by many because of his name. He doesn't hide any of it. He tells them plainly. But then he says something that stops all of that in its tracks. Even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. All of them, everyone. Not roughly counted, not approximately known, but numbered. Specifically, individually, completely known. Do you know how small that is? The hairs of your head, not your great accomplishments, or your most significant moments, or the version of you that you present to the world. The hairs of your head, the tiniest, most incidental detail of your physical existence. And God knows the number, which means there is no part of you, no corner, no edge, no overlooked detail that exists outside of being known. You are not partially seen. You are not mostly understood. You are completely known, down to the smallest and most forgettable thing about you. So don't be afraid, he says. You are worth more than many sparrows. He keeps moving, teaching, healing, sending people out and welcoming them back. And then, in the middle of all this motion, in the middle of all this going and doing and being sent, he stops and he says something that is less like a teaching and more like an open door. Come to me, he says. Just that. 2 words. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Let that arrive. Don't analyze it. Don't immediately ask what it means, or whether you qualify, or what the conditions are. Just let it arrive, the way an invitation arrives, held out toward you, waiting to see what you will do with it. Come to me, all you who are weary, and you are weary, aren't you? In some way, underneath everything, in the place you don't always let yourself acknowledge. You are tired. You have been carrying something, maybe for a long time, maybe so long you've forgotten what it felt like to put it down. He sees it. He named it before you could. Take my yoke upon you, he says, and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Gentle. That is the word he uses for himself. Not powerful, though he is. Not authoritative, though he is that too. Gentle. As if the most important thing for a weary person to know about the one asking them to come is not his strength, but his softness. And you will find rest, he says, for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. There it is, the thing your body has been waiting all day to hear. Not that there is no yoke, but that this one is easy. Not that there is no burden, but that this one is light. That the life offered here is not an addition of weight, but a trading of weights. And what you receive in the trade is so much lighter than what you give up that it barely feels like carrying at all. Come to me. You are already here. You are already resting. Stay a little longer. Don't move. You're exactly where you need to be. Let the weight of your body sink a little deeper into the mattress. Let your breathing slow just a little more. There is nothing required of you right now except the simplest, most natural thing in the world. Just to be here, just to breathe, just to let the words come. We are moving now to the water's edge. It is a different kind of day. The sun is higher and the crowds are larger, and the noise of so many people pressing close has become almost too much for the small strip of shore. And so Jesus does something practical and strange and quietly beautiful. He steps into a boat, just a small fishing boat, rocking gently at the edge of the lake. He sits down in it and pushes out just a little from the shore. So there is a stretch of water between him and the crowd settles, finds places on the grass, looks out at him across the glittering surface, and he begins to tell stories, not arguments, not rules, not systematic explanations of how things work. Stories. Because something in him understands, that the deepest truths do not arrive through the front door of logic. They slip in sideways, through the window of imagination. They take hold in the part of you that responds to images and characters and the satisfying shape of a narrative before your analytical mind has had a chance to put its defenses up. So he tells stories. And the stories are about ordinary things, so ordinary that it takes a moment to realize they are also about everything. A farmer, he says, went out to sow his seed. You can picture it, a figure in a field, early morning probably, reaching into a bag and scattering seed with a wide, loose gesture. The seed catches the light as it falls, and it lands in different places. Because that is what seed does. It doesn't all land in the same place. It scatters according to the wind and the arm and the particular geography of the field. Some falls on the path, hard-packed earth, worn smooth by feet. The birds see it almost before it lands. Some falls on rocky ground. It shoots up quickly, almost too quickly, bright and eager, but the roots have nowhere to go, and when the sun comes the shallow plants wither, because there is nothing underneath them holding them to life. Some falls among thorns. It grows, but the thorns grow faster, or just as fast, and they crowd in from every side until the good plant is choked and bears nothing. And some falls on good soil, and that seed produces a crop 30, 60, 100 times what was sown. He tells the story and then he says, "Whoever has ears, let them hear," as if hearing is a choice, as if there is a kind of listening that is more than just sound waves arriving at the eardrum, a deeper kind of listening that opens something inside you and lets the meaning in. What kind of soil are you? That is the question underneath the story. Not asked to make you anxious about the answer, not asked as a test you might fail, but asked as an invitation to honest self-reflection. Where does the word land in you? Does it find something soft and ready, or does something in you harden against it, or let it in only shallowly, or let the thorns of worry and busyness and the weight of daily life grow up around it until it can't breathe? Tonight, lying here in the quiet, you are good soil. Let the words in. Let them go deep. Let them root in the place beneath the place where words usually reach. He tells them another story. The kingdom of heaven, he says, is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. And while everyone slept, notice that, while everyone slept, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and slipped away into the night. And when the wheat began to grow, the weeds grew alongside it. The servants wanted to pull the weeds up immediately. Of course they did. That is the human impulse, to fix it now, to sort it out now, to separate the good from the bad before another day passes. But the farmer says no. Wait, because in pulling up the weeds you might uproot the wheat along with them. Let them grow together until the harvest. And at the harvest, the harvesters will know what to do. There is something quietly freeing in this. Not everything needs to be sorted out right now. Not every tangle needs to be immediately resolved. The field can hold both for a season. The harvest will come in its own time, and the separating will happen then, and it is not your job to do it in the middle of the night. Rest, the story seems to say. The farmer knows his field. The harvest is coming. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. A speck, almost nothing, something you could lose between your fingers without noticing. You plant it in the ground and it disappears entirely, and you might wonder for a while whether anything is happening at all. And then, slowly, quietly, without fanfare, it becomes the largest of garden plants, with branches wide enough that birds come from everywhere to nest in its shade. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not mistake hiddenness for absence. Do not assume that because you cannot see the growth, it is not happening. Some of the most important things that have ever happened in a life began as something so small it was almost invisible. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast, he says, mixed into a vast amount of flour, and it works its way through all of it, quietly, invisibly, without anyone watching, until the whole batch is changed. You don't see the yeast working, but one morning you wake up and everything is different. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. A man stumbles across it, not even looking for it, just walking across a field, and suddenly, there, something half buried and gleaming, and he covers it back up and walks away. But he cannot stop thinking about it, cannot unfeel the weight of what he found, and so he goes and sells everything he has, everything, without regret, without looking back, and buys the field. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant who spent his whole life looking for one perfect pearl, and when he finally found it, he didn't hesitate. He sold everything else and bought it, everything else, not because everything else was bad, but because this one thing was so good, so irreplaceable, so worth having, that everything else simply became the price of it, and it didn't feel like loss. It felt like the most obvious transaction in the world. Have you understood all these things? Jesus asks his disciples at the end. Yes, they say. And maybe they had, and maybe they hadn't entirely. Maybe understanding would come in pieces over years the way it usually does. But for now, for tonight, you don't need to understand everything. You don't need to have it all worked out. You just need to have heard the stories. And the stories are already in you now, doing their quiet work, like yeast in the dough, like a seed in the dark, good soil, like treasure, half buried, waiting to be found. Rest now. Something is growing in you, even as you sleep. Still here. Good, you're doing beautifully. Just keep breathing, slow and deep and easy, and let yourself go a little further down into the warmth and quiet. You don't have to hold on to anything. You don't have to stay awake to receive what is being offered here. Sometimes the deepest things reach us precisely when our defenses are down, when the noise is finally quieted, when we have stopped trying so hard and simply allowed ourselves to be still. The stories have settled now, and Jesus has come down from the boat, back to the shore, back to the road, and the road leads, as it always seems to, toward people who are suffering, people who are carrying things in their bodies and their histories that they have carried alone for too long. He moves toward them. He always moves toward them. A man comes to him. He comes carefully, tentatively, the way a person comes when they are not sure they will be welcome, because this man has leprosy. And in that world, in that time, leprosy meant more than sickness. It meant separation. It meant you called out a warning when people came near. It meant you lived outside the edges of ordinary life, outside the village, outside the gatherings, outside the reach of other people's hands, outside the reach of touch. And this man kneels down in front of Jesus and says something so careful, so measured, so achingly honest about what it is to have been turned away many times before. Lord, he says, if you are willing, you can make me clean. If you are willing. He doesn't doubt the power. He doubts the willingness. He has learned, somewhere along the long road of his illness, to be uncertain about whether he deserves to be helped, whether anyone would choose to extend themselves toward him. And Jesus, without pausing, without deliberating, without checking who is watching, reaches out his hand and touches him. The touch itself, before a single word is spoken, is already the answer. In a world where this man had not been touched by another human being in perhaps years, the hand of Jesus lands on him, and everything that hand carries, warmth, presence, the weight of another person choosing to close the distance, arrives before the healing does. I am willing, Jesus says. Be clean, and immediately the leprosy is gone. A Roman soldier finds him, a centurion, a man of authority, accustomed to giving orders and having them obeyed, and yet here he is, coming to Jesus not with a demand but with a request, humble and urgent at once. Lord, he says, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus says, I will come and heal him, and the centurion stops him. No, he says, you don't need to come. I understand how authority works. I tell one soldier go, and he goes. I tell another come, and he comes. I say do this, and it is done. Just say the word, he tells Jesus, and my servant will be healed. Jesus turns to the people around him, and he is, the gospel says, amazed, as if this is something he did not expect to find here, on this road, in this unlikely person. Such faith, such clean, uncomplicated, completely undefended trust. Just say the word. There is a whole theology in that phrase, an understanding that the power does not depend on proximity, that healing does not require a procedure or a formula, or even a physical presence, that the word itself carries what it needs to carry, and it can cross any distance. Go, Jesus says to the centurion, let it be done just as you believed it would. And at that very moment, the servant is healed. The nights that follow are full of people. They come when the day's work is done, when the sun has gone down and there is finally time, they bring the sick and the suffering, those tormented by things they cannot name, things that seem to live inside them and speak in voices that are not their own, and he heals them, one after another. Into the evening, the healings continue, quietly and completely. A fever leaves a woman's body and she gets up from her bed and begins to move around the house. The ordinary motion of an ordinary life restored. One night, on the lake again, because the lake keeps appearing in these stories like a recurring dream, a storm comes up without warning. The boat is being swamped. The waves are breaking over the sides. The disciples, some of them fishermen, men who know this lake better than they know almost anything, are terrified. And Jesus is asleep in the stern of the boat, on a cushion, while the storm rages, sleeping with the particular peace of someone who is not afraid of the water or the wind or the dark or the noise, sleeping as if the storm has not changed the fundamental nature of things, which it hasn't. They wake him. Lord, save us. We're going to drown. And he gets up, and he speaks to the wind and the waves the way you might speak to something that simply needs to be told what to do. Quiet. Be still. And the wind dies, and the water goes flat and calm, just like that. The chaos that a moment ago seemed absolute, gone, replaced by a stillness so complete that it feels almost like a different world. Why are you so afraid? He asks them. Do you still have no faith? Not as a rebuke, as a genuine question, one he may be asking you tonight, quietly, in the stillness after the storm of your own day. Why are you afraid? The one who can still the water is in the boat with you. A woman has been bleeding for 12 years. 12 years. Think about that. The duration of it. The relentlessness of it. The way it has shaped every single day of her life for more than a decade. She has spent everything she had on doctors and treatments, and nothing has helped. Nothing has even slowed it down. And now she is in a crowd pressing around Jesus, pressing so close that personal space has ceased to exist. And she reaches out from behind and touches the edge of his cloak. Just the edge. Just the hem. Just the outermost border of the cloth. And immediately, the bleeding stops. She can feel it in her body, the way you can feel when something that has been wrong for a very long time is suddenly right. A settling, a ceasing, a wholeness arriving all at once. Jesus stops walking. Who touched me? He asks. The disciples look around, bewildered. There are people pressing in from every direction. Everyone is touching everyone. But Jesus says, someone touched me. Power has gone out from me. And the woman comes forward, trembling, and tells him everything, the whole story, all 12 years of it. And he listens to every word. And then he says, daughter, not woman, not stranger, not you with the issue of blood. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. A little girl is dying. Her father is a synagogue leader, a man of standing, a man who surely has some pride invested in appearances, and yet here he is on his knees in front of Jesus, in the middle of a crowd begging. Before they can even reach the house, word comes, she is already gone. Don't bother the teacher anymore. And Jesus turns to the father and says, don't be afraid. Just believe. Just believe. They arrive at the house. The mourners are already there, wailing and weeping. And Jesus says quietly to the room, she is not dead. She is only sleeping. And they laugh at him, because they know death when they see it. He takes her by the hand. My child, he says, get up. And she does. In every one of these moments, the leper on the road, the paralyzed servant, the storm on the lake, the woman in the crowd, the little girl in the quiet room, there is a hand reaching out, or a word spoken into darkness, or a presence arriving exactly where it is most needed. Tonight, in whatever way you need it most, imagine that hand reaching toward you, not asking anything of you first, not waiting until you are better or braver or more deserving. Just reaching. You are not alone in the dark. Rest now. Still breathing. Still here. Let your body be heavy now. Beautifully, completely heavy. The way it gets when sleep is very close but hasn't quite arrived yet. That in-between place. That soft threshold. You are almost there. Just let the words keep coming, slow and warm, like light through a curtain. We are walking now. Not by the lake this time. Not on the hillside. We are on a road. A dusty, winding road between Jerusalem and Jericho. A road that descends steeply through rocky, sun-bleached terrain. A road that in those days had a reputation. Travelers knew to be careful on this road. Things happened on this road that shouldn't happen to anyone. But before we get to the road, we need to get to the question that sent us there. A man stands up in the crowd. He is an expert in the law, which means he has spent his life with words, with texts, with the careful interpretation of ancient instructions. He is not asking in bad faith exactly, but he is testing. He wants to see how Jesus handles a question with edges. Teacher, he says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus does what he often does. He answers a question with a question. What is written in the law? How do you read it? And the man answers well. He knows his texts. Love the Lord your God, he says, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus tells him. Do this, and you will live. But the man is not finished, because there is a word in his own answer that he needs clarified, a word with borders, a word that, if defined narrowly enough, makes the whole commandment manageable. And who, he asks, is my neighbor? It is such a human question, not asked out of cruelty, but out of the deep, understandable desire to know where the obligation ends, to know how far the love is required to reach before you are allowed to stop, to find the edge of the field so you know how much of it you have to tend. Jesus doesn't give him a definition. He gives him a story. A man, he says, was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Just a man. No name, no tribe, no history given. Just a man on a road. The way any of us are just a person moving through an ordinary day. And he was attacked. Robbers, the road was known for them, stripped him, beat him, and left him on the ground, half dead, and went away. Half dead. That particular phrase. Not gone, not recoverable, somewhere in between, in that terrible suspended place where everything depends on what happens next. A priest came down the road, saw him, and crossed to the other side. Now before we judge this priest too quickly, try to understand. He had reasons. He had rules about ritual purity. He had places to be, obligations to fulfill, a position to maintain. He may have told himself that someone else would come. He may have not let himself look too long at the man on the ground, because looking too long would have made it impossible to keep walking. We have all been the priest, in our own smaller ways. We have all found reasons, good and practical and even technically valid reasons, to cross to the other side. A Levite came, saw the man, passed by, and then a Samaritan. Now in that world, a Samaritan was the last person anyone in that Jewish crowd would have expected to be the hero of the story. There was a long and bitter history between Jews and Samaritans. They did not mix. They did not help each other. They had, over generations, cultivated a mutual mistrust so deep and so old that it had almost become invisible, just the way things were. And yet, this Samaritan came to where the man was. And when he saw him, the gospel says, he took pity on him. Not he assessed the situation. Not he weighed the risks. Not he wondered whether this was somehow a trap, or whether the man had brought it on himself, or whether this was really his problem to solve. He took pity. And then, and this is where the story becomes almost unbearably tender, he went to him. He knelt down on that dusty road beside a stranger who could not ask for help and might not even be conscious enough to receive it. And he poured oil on his wounds, and wine, the oil to soothe, the wine to cleanse. He bandaged what was broken. He lifted the man onto his own animal, which meant he himself would walk, and brought him to an inn. And the next morning, before he left, he gave the innkeeper money. "Take care of him," he said, "and if it costs more than this, I will pay you back when I return." When I return. He was already planning to come back, already factoring this stranger into his future, already making room in his ongoing life for someone he had never met and might never see again. Which of these three, Jesus asks the expert in the law, do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The man can barely bring himself to say the word Samaritan. The one who had mercy on him, he says. Go, Jesus tells him quietly, and do likewise. Not go and categorize your neighbors correctly. Not go and find a better definition of the boundaries of obligation. Just go and do. Likewise, the lesson is not about who qualifies as your neighbor. The lesson is about who you are willing to be. Not long after, Jesus comes to a village, and a woman named Martha opens her home to him. She has a sister, Mary, who sits at Jesus' feet the moment he arrives. Just sits there, listening, completely present, as if there is nowhere else in the world she would rather be, and nothing more important than this. Martha is in the kitchen, and Martha is frustrated. She comes to Jesus and says, with an exhaustion that every person who has ever carried more than their share of the work will recognize immediately, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." It is such a human moment. The resentment of the one who is doing while another is being. The tiredness of the one who keeps the household running while someone else gets to sit and listen. And Jesus looks at her with what can only be love, because everything he says to her is said with love. And he says, "Martha, Martha," the doubling of the name, the gentleness of it, like a hand placed on a shoulder. You are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. He is not dismissing Martha's work. He is not saying the kitchen doesn't matter, or that the preparations are unimportant. He is saying that in this particular moment, in the presence of this particular person, the one thing needed is simply to be present, to stop, to sit, to listen. You can do the dishes later. And now we come to the story that sits at the very center of everything, the one that people who have never read a word of the Gospels somehow still know, the one that has made its way into every culture, every language, every corner of the world that has ever heard it. A man had 2 sons. The younger one came to his father and asked for his inheritance. Now, not when you die, now, give it to me now, and let me go. This is, in the world of that story, a shocking thing to ask. To ask for the inheritance while the father still lives is to say, in effect, I wish you were already gone. I want what you have. I don't want you. And the father, and this is the first extraordinary thing, gives it to him. He doesn't argue. He doesn't punish. He divides the property and hands it over and watches his son walk away. The son goes to a distant country and spends everything, all of it, gone, in the way that money goes when there are no limits and no one watching, and the whole world seems to be made of pleasure. And then a famine comes, and he finds himself feeding pigs and longing to eat what the pigs are eating, and no one gives him anything. And sitting there, in the mud, at the absolute bottom of everything, he comes to his senses. That phrase. He comes to his senses, as if the life he was living was a kind of senselessness, a fog, and only now, here at the end of it, can he see clearly. How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, he says to himself, and here I am starving to death. He rehearses the speech he will give. He practices it, probably, on the long road home. "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." He is not expecting restoration. He is hoping only for survival. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, which means the father was looking, which means the father had been looking every day down that road, hoping for the shape of a figure that might be his son coming home. And when he saw him, he didn't wait. He didn't compose himself or prepare a response or decide how stern to be. He ran. A father in that culture did not run. It was considered undignified. He ran anyway. He threw his arms around his son. He kissed him. The son begins his practiced speech. "Father, I have sinned." And the father is already calling to the servants. "Bring the best robe. Put a ring on his finger. Sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf. Let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Every person in this story is loved. The son who ran away, the son who stayed, the father who kept watch on the road. And you, wherever you are on the road tonight, whatever distance lies behind you, whatever direction you are facing, you are loved. The father is already looking. Come home. Rest now. You're so close now. Can you feel it? That particular heaviness that isn't tiredness anymore, but something closer to peace. The kind of weight that doesn't press down on you but holds you, like warm water, like a blanket pulled close, like the specific gravity of a body finally, completely at rest. Stay here, just a little further now, just a few more gentle miles of road together, and then you can let go completely. The night is deep and quiet around you, and the words will keep coming, soft and unhurried, like a river that knows exactly where it is going. We are still walking, but the questions have changed. Someone asks him, a Pharisee, curious or testing, or perhaps somewhere in between, "When will the kingdom of God come?" It is the question underneath so many other questions. When will things be made right? When will the world look the way it is supposed to look? When will the waiting be over? It is the question of every person who has ever looked at the brokenness around them and felt the ache of knowing it was not meant to be this way. Jesus pauses. The kingdom of God, he says, is not something that can be observed. You won't be able to point to a corner of the map and say, "There, that is where it is." You won't hear an announcement or see a sign in the sky that settles the matter. People will say, "Here it is," or "There it is," and they will be wrong. Because the kingdom of God, he says, is in your midst, among you, already here, already present, already moving through the world in ways that do not always announce themselves, not waiting for the right conditions or the right moment or the right people to recognize it. Already here, like yeast in the dough, like a seed already underground, already becoming. He tells them about a shepherd who has 100 sheep and loses one, just one, which in any reasonable accounting is not a catastrophic loss. 99 remain. The flock is mostly intact. Any sensible manager of resources would call that an acceptable outcome and move on. But this shepherd leaves the 99, leaves them in the open country, which is its own act of trust, its own small risk, and goes after the one that is lost. Not because it is the logical thing to do, not because it makes practical sense, but because each one matters, because the shepherd knows his sheep, and the absence of one is felt, specifically and particularly the way the absence of a specific person is felt, not as a statistic, but as a loss with a face and a name. And when he finds it, when he finally finds it, after however long the searching took, over whatever terrain it required, he doesn't scold it. He doesn't drag it back with a lecture about wandering. He puts it on his shoulders. He carries it home. And then he calls his friends and neighbors together. "Rejoice with me," he says. "I have found my lost sheep." And then Jesus says something that should perhaps stop us entirely, that should land with the full weight of what it actually means. There will be more rejoicing in heaven, he says, over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who do not need to repent. More rejoicing over the lost one, the wandering one, the one who ended up somewhere they didn't intend to be and couldn't find their way back alone. If you have ever felt like the lost sheep, if you have ever felt like the one who wandered, the one who doesn't quite fit back with the 99, the one whose absence you weren't sure anyone noticed, hear this. He noticed. He came looking. He is carrying you home. A woman has 10 silver coins. She loses one, and she lights a lamp, the whole lamp for 1 coin, and sweeps the entire house, gets down on her hands and knees and searches carefully, in every corner, under every piece of furniture, in every shadow the lamplight can reach, until she finds it. And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together. "Rejoice with me," she says. "I have found my lost coin." Such extravagance for such a small thing, such disproportionate joy. The lamp, the sweeping, the calling of friends, all for 1 coin out of 10. In the same way, Jesus says, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. 1, just 1. The angels of heaven throwing a party for 1 person who turns around and comes home. The arithmetic of heaven is nothing like the arithmetic of the world. In the world, 1 out of 10 is a 10% loss. In heaven, 1 out of 10 coming home is cause for celebration that fills the whole room. You are not too small to be celebrated. You are not too lost to be found. 2 men go to the temple to pray. One is a Pharisee, educated, observant, genuinely disciplined in his religious life, and he knows it. He stands and prays with the quiet confidence of a man who has kept the rules and would like that noted. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give 1/10 of all I get. Every word of it is probably true. That is the complicated thing about this prayer. He likely has done all those things. The problem is not the facts. The problem is the posture, the closed fist of a heart that has turned its own goodness into a barrier between itself and everyone else. The prayer that goes up, but never really opens. The other man, the tax collector, which in that world meant collaborator, meant someone who had made his living by taking from his own people on behalf of the occupying power, stands at a distance. He won't even look up. He beats his chest, the ancient gesture of a heart striking against its own ribs, and he says just 7 words, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That is the whole prayer. No inventory of his goodness, because he has none to offer. No comparison to others, because he is not thinking about others. Just the bare, undefended truth of what he is and what he needs. And Jesus says, simply, clearly, without elaboration, this man went home justified before God, not the other. For everyone who exalts themselves will be humbled, and everyone who humbles themselves will be exalted. The prayer that reaches heaven is not the impressive one. It is the honest one, the small one, the one that knows exactly what it needs and asks for nothing more and nothing less. Have mercy on me. That is enough. That has always been enough. People are bringing their children to Jesus, little ones, babies, some of them, held out toward him by parents who simply want his hands on their children, his blessing resting on their small heads. And the disciples, ever practical, ever concerned with the management of the crowd and the dignity of the moment, begin turning them away. Don't bother him. He is busy. These are just children. And Jesus, in the gospel, says he is indignant, which is one of the more startling words used about him, because it means genuinely, feelingly annoyed, says, Let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. and he takes them in his arms, places his hands on them, blesses them one by one. Truly I tell you, he says, anyone who will not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. Like a little child, not performing, not earning, not arriving with credentials or arguments or a carefully prepared case for why they deserve to be there, just coming, open-handed and trusting and entirely undefended, like you right now, in the dark, just coming, just resting, just receiving. A rich young man comes running, falls on his knees. Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He has kept all the commandments since he was a boy. He has lived well by every external measure. He is earnest and sincere and genuinely seeking. Jesus looks at him, and the gospel says he loved him before he says anything else, before the hard word comes. He loved him. One thing you lack, he says. Go, sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. And the man's face falls, and he walks away sad, because he had great wealth, and the wealth had him, and he could not let go of it, and he knew it, and that knowing was its own particular grief. Jesus watches him go. How hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God, he says quietly. Not impossible. He does not say impossible, he says hard, because hard things can still be done, especially with help. With man, this is impossible, he says, but with God, all things are possible. A door left quietly open, even now, even after the walking away, even in the sadness, the door stays open. You don't have to have everything right tonight. You don't have to be the Pharisee with his careful record, or the rich young man with his impossible choice. You can just be the tax collector in the back of the room, not even looking up, saying the only prayer that ever really needed saying, have mercy on me. And you can be the child, held in arms that are stronger and gentler than any arms you have known, with a blessing resting on your head like the softest possible weight. The kingdom is among you. It is here, right now, in this room, in this quiet. Rest in it. You are home. Stay with me, just a little longer. You are almost all the way there now, almost all the way down into the deep, still place where sleep finally takes you completely. The words will carry you the rest of the way. You don't have to do anything except breathe and let them come. We have traveled far tonight, hillsides and lake shores, dusty roads and crowded houses, stories told from boats and prayers offered in quiet rooms, healings that happened in the middle of crowds, and healings that happened in the intimate hush of a small room where only a few people were allowed to witness. And now we come to the last night. The weight of it is different from everything that came before. There is a tenderness here that is almost unbearable, the particular tenderness of someone who knows that time is short and chooses to spend what remains of it on love. It is just before Passover. The city is full. Jerusalem swells with pilgrims every year at this time, people coming from everywhere to remember the great deliverance, the ancient night when death passed over and a people were set free. The air is thick with history and expectation. Jesus knows what is coming. The gospel says it plainly. He knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. He knew about the betrayal already taking shape in the heart of one of his own. He knew about the arrest that would come before morning, the trials, the road ahead. He knew all of it. And knowing all of it, he sat down to dinner with his friends. During the meal, he gets up. He takes off his outer robe. He wraps a towel around his waist. He pours water into a basin, and he begins to wash his disciples' feet. In that world, in that time, this was the work of the lowest servant in the household. Not a task for a teacher, not a task for a rabbi, certainly not a task for someone who had just days ago been welcomed into Jerusalem with crowds waving palm branches and shouting Hosanna. This was beneath him. by every measure the world used to calculate such things. And he does it anyway. He moves from person to person, kneeling down, taking each pair of feet in his hands, dusty from the roads, calloused from the walking, and washing them, slowly, carefully, as if there is nowhere else he would rather be, and nothing more important he could possibly be doing on this last night. He comes to Peter, and Peter, who always speaks before he has finished thinking, pulls his feet back. "Lord, are you going to wash my feet? You do not realize now what I am doing," Jesus tells him, "but later you will understand." "No," Peter says, "you shall never wash my feet." And Jesus says gently, without irritation, with the patience of someone who has been gently correcting Peter for 3 years and expects to keep doing so, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." And Peter, characteristically, swings immediately to the opposite extreme. Then not just my feet, my hands and my head as well. There is something so deeply human about Peter in this moment. The overcorrection, the swinging from absolute refusal to absolute surrender, the inability to find the quiet middle ground. Jesus smiles, perhaps. Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. When he has finished, when he has knelt before each one of them, this teacher, who could still the storms and raise the dead, this man they have called Lord, he puts his robe back on and returns to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asks, and then he answers his own question before they have to admit that they don't. "Not fully, not yet. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. The one who is greatest becomes the servant of all. The one at the top of every hierarchy kneels at the feet of the ones below, and in doing so turns every hierarchy the world has ever built quietly upside down. Now that you know these things," he says, "you will be blessed if you do them." The meal continues, and somewhere in the quiet of it, Jesus is troubled. The gospel uses that word, troubled in spirit, as if something has moved through him, some wave of knowing, and it shows. "One of you," he says, "is going to betray me." The disciples look at one another, confused, distressed, each one apparently uncertain enough about their own heart to ask, "Lord, is it I?" which is its own kind of honesty. None of them immediately says, "Well, it certainly isn't me." They each hold the question for a moment against their own chest and wonder. Jesus dips a piece of bread, gives it to Judas, and says, quietly, so that only Judas can hear, "What you are about to do, do quickly." And Judas goes out, and the gospel notes, with the spare, devastating simplicity of great writing, "It was night. When he is gone, something shifts. The air in the room changes. Jesus looks at the ones who remain, the 11, his friends, the people he has walked with and eaten with and taught for 3 years, and he speaks to them with an openness and an intimacy that is different from anything that came before. "My children," he says, "not disciples, not followers, not students, my children, I will be with you only a little longer." And then, as if he wants to leave them with something that will hold, something that will last through everything that is coming, something they can carry when he is no longer there to carry it with them, he gives them a command, just one, a new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. As I have loved you, not as the world loves, conditionally, cautiously, with one eye on what it might get in return. As I have loved you, kneeling on the floor with a towel, washing the feet of people who will fall asleep in the garden and deny knowing me before morning. That kind of love. By this, he says, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Peter asks where he is going, and Jesus tells him, "You cannot follow now, but you will follow later." And Peter, being Peter, "Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." And Jesus looks at him with eyes that see further than Peter can see into himself. Will you really lay down your life for me? And then, not cruelly, but honestly, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. Peter cannot imagine it. He is sure it is impossible. He does not yet know the particular weakness that lives inside his own certainty. None of us ever quite do. Do not let your hearts be troubled. He says it now, in the upper room, to the 11, and he says it now, across all the years, to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. Not a crowded waiting room, not a narrow corridor, not a place where some are welcome and most are turned away. Many rooms, a vast, welcoming, unimaginably large house with space for everyone who comes. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? He is preparing a place for you, specifically, particularly by name, a place that fits you, a room that is yours, waiting. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. Thomas asks the honest question, the one that cuts to the heart of everything. Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus says, and these words have been written on the walls of churches and carried in the pockets of the dying, and spoken over graves for 2,000 years. I am the way, and the truth, and the life. Not a way, not one option among several. The way, the ground beneath the feet, the direction home. Peace I leave with you, he says. My peace I give you, not the peace the world gives, which is really just the temporary absence of conflict, the uneasy silence between storms. Something different, something deeper, a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that holds even when everything around it is shaking. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Remain in me, he says, as I remain in you, the vine and the branches. Not 2 separate things, one thing, connected at the root, sharing the same life. The branch does not have to generate its own life or manufacture its own fruit. It only has to remain. Stay connected, stay close. Let the life that flows through the vine flow through it too. Apart from me, he says, you can do nothing, but remaining in him, everything remain in me. You don't have to strive tonight. You don't have to produce or perform or hold yourself together by force of will. You only have to remain, like a branch resting in the vine, like a child resting in arms stronger than its own. Just remain. The night is deep now. The room is quiet. Outside the city sleeps, and he is still speaking, still holding, still here. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Rest now. You are held. You're almost there. Just breathe, in and out. One more slow breath, and let the night hold you the rest of the way down. You have traveled so far tonight, further than you may realize, and the journey has been good. The words have done their quiet work, and now in these final few minutes, let everything settle like dust after a long day of walking. Let it all come to rest. We have one more place to go, and it is the most intimate place of all. The meal is finished. The room is quiet. The 11 are still gathered around him, leaning in, trying to hold on to every word, because something in them knows, even if they cannot articulate it, that this is different, that tonight is different from every other night that came before it. And Jesus lifts his face toward heaven and prays. Not a performed prayer, not a public prayer designed for the ears of the crowd. This is something else entirely, a conversation between a son and a father. Overheard, we are not meant to be here. Almost. It is too private, too unguarded, too real, and yet we are allowed to listen. We are given the extraordinary gift of hearing the interior of this relationship laid open, just for a moment, before everything changes. Father, he says, the hour has come. He prays first for himself, not selfishly, but honestly. He asks to be glorified, so that he might glorify the Father. He speaks of the work he has been given to do, and of finishing it. There is a settledness in his voice, not resignation, something more like completion, the particular peace of someone who has done what they came to do and knows it. I have brought you glory on earth, he says, by finishing the work you gave me to do. Finishing it, not abandoning it, not leaving it half done, not walking away when it became difficult. Finishing all the way to the end, all the way through the hardest part, all the way to the place where the work is complete and the rest can be trusted to what comes after. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. Before the world began. There is a depth in those words that the mind cannot fully enter. Before any of this, before the hillside and the lake and the road and the upper room, there was this, a relationship, a love, a glory that preceded everything and will outlast everything, and he is returning to it. Then he prays for his disciples, for the 11 in the room with him, for the people who have walked alongside him, who have heard things no one else heard, and seen things no one else saw, and still, somehow, only partially understood. I pray for them, he says. I am not praying for the world, but for those you have given me, for they are yours. Holy Father, protect them, keep them safe, keep them together, that they may be one, as we are one. Unity, that is what he prays for. Not uniformity, not everyone thinking the same thoughts and speaking the same words, and losing their particular selves in a mass of sameness, but unity, the deep kind, the kind that holds people together across their differences, because something underneath the differences is shared and unbreakable. While I was with them, I protected them, he says. I kept them safe, and now he is going, and so he asks the Father to do what he has been doing, to hold what he has been holding, to keep watch over the ones he loves when he is no longer there to do it himself. There is something in this that is almost too tender to look at directly. The one who has been the keeper, asking the Father to keep, the shepherd, making arrangements for the flock before he goes. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, he says, but that you protect them from the evil one, not removed from the difficulty, not extracted from the ordinary, complicated, sometimes painful business of being alive, but protected within it, held inside it, guarded from the thing that would use the difficulty to destroy rather than to shape. Sanctify them by the truth, he says. Your word is truth. And then, and this is where the prayer opens outward, like a door swinging wide, he prays for more than the 11. My prayer is not for them alone. He pauses. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. Those who will believe through their message. That is you. Somewhere in this prayer, spoken in an upper room in Jerusalem on the last night before everything changed, your name was already present. Not written, names weren't named, but you were there, in the space of that phrase. All the people across all the centuries who would hear the words passed along from those 11 and find something in them that rang true, that reached them in the dark, that would not let go. You were prayed for that night, before you existed, before your name was given or your face was formed or the particular shape of your life was determined. He prayed for you, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, not near, not adjacent, not watching from a respectful distance, held inside the very relationship between the Father and the Son, the way a child is held inside the warmth of a house while the wind moves outside, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, he says, that they may be one as we are one, I in them and you in me. Let that be the last thing that settles into you tonight. Not a doctrine to be analyzed, not a puzzle to be solved, just an image held quietly in the mind as sleep arrives. I in them, you in me, the love that existed before the world began, reaching all the way down, through all the centuries and all the distance and all the darkness, reaching all the way into this room, this night, this specific and unrepeatable moment of your life. Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am. He wants you with him, not as an afterthought, not as a footnote to the larger story, as the point of it, the reason the work was worth finishing, the reason the road was worth walking, the reason the last night was spent not in retreat or in grief, but in prayer, leaning toward the Father, asking for you by name, or as close to by name as love can get when it is holding the whole of time in its hands at once, that they may see my glory, the glory you have given me, because you loved me before the creation of the world. He closes the prayer and goes out into the night. What follows, the garden, the arrest, the trials, the road, the cross, is not where we will go tonight. Tonight is for rest, not for grief. Tonight is for the words that hold, not the hours that break. But know this, as you go to sleep, the story does not end in the garden. It does not end on the road. It does not end on the cross. 3 days later, everything the darkness thought it had secured was undone. The stone was moved. The grave clothes were folded. And the first word spoken into the new morning was a name, the name of someone who had been weeping, who had come to the tomb expecting only to finish what grief required, and instead found herself standing in the middle of the most astonishing thing that has ever happened. I have overcome the world, he said in the upper room, before any of it. Not I will overcome, not I am trying to overcome, not I hope to overcome, if things go well. I have overcome, already done, already accomplished, already settled, in some dimension that the present moment hadn't caught up with yet, but would. The darkness does not get the last word. It never did. You have traveled far tonight. Think of where we have been together. The hillside in the morning cool, where blessings fell like slow light on an upturned crowd. The sermon that went deeper than any law had ever gone, reaching past the outer action into the hidden interior of the heart. The wildflowers in the field, more beautiful than anything Solomon ever wore. The invitation to come, to rest, to lay the burden down. The lake in the evening, with stories rising from it like mist. The hand reaching out in the dark, again and again and again, toward whoever needed it most. The road between Jerusalem and Jericho, and the stranger who stopped. The father running, the shepherd carrying the lost one home on his shoulders. The upper room, the towel around his waist, the prayer lifted toward heaven in the last quiet hour, and underneath all of it, running through every story and every healing and every word spoken on every road, the same current, the same unchanging thing. Love, not the word love, though the word is there, but the thing itself, the living, moving, uncontainable fact of being known and wanted and held. The kind of love that washes feet and runs toward prodigals and searches the whole house for one lost coin and prays. In the last hours before everything breaks, for people who haven't been born yet, for you. These words have been spoken over sleeping people for 2,000 years, in cold rooms and warm ones, in languages that rise and fall and transform across the centuries, in hospitals and in homes and in small stone chapels where a single candle burns against the dark. Mothers have murmured them over children. Old men have held them in their minds through the long hours before dawn. People in grief have found them waiting on the other side of the grief, still there, unchanged, patient as stone. And now they have been spoken over you, in this room, on this night. In whatever particular darkness surrounds you right now, whatever worries you carried to bed, whatever weight settled on your chest when the lights went out, whatever tomorrow is already reaching back to claim from tonight, let it go. You don't have to carry it. You were prayed for in an upper room on the last night, by someone who knew exactly what was coming and chose to spend his final hours asking the Father to hold you. You are known. Every hair of your head is numbered. The Father is watching the road. The Shepherd is carrying you home. The kingdom is already among you, here, in this room, in this breath, in this particular and unrepeatable moment of your one wild and precious life. Go to sleep now. You are known. You are loved. You are held. The night is safe. And in the morning, in all the mornings still to come, the word that was spoken into the first light of the first Easter morning is still being spoken over the world, over you. Rest now. Amen.